In this video, we are comparing two very popular flagship smartwatches, the Samsung Galaxy Ultra against the latest generation Apple Watch Ultra 2, to see which one really is the champ when it comes to overall accuracy for workouts, durability, and more. Timestamps for everything, of course, will be in the video description down below, so if you like to jump around between different categories, feel free to do so. Let's begin. The most expensive one right now available in the market is the Apple Watch, as it has a retail price of $800 versus the Galaxy Ultra can be bought brand new for $650. But however, when it comes to compatibility, the Apple Watch is obviously compatible on the Apple ecosystem, which means you need to have an iPhone of some kind to really make this Apple Watch work. Versus the Galaxy Watch Ultra is compatible on not just Samsung phones, but also Android phones, so long as they're on Android 10 or newer, and the phone has more than 2 gigabytes of RAM. And if you notice, the Apple Watch still has a bigger screen than the Samsung, but not by a whole lot. But they both have multi-band GPS. They both have 3000 nits of brightness, which outdoors, these two look fantastic. They have no issues illuminating the screen for you to see the information. They both have always on display. They have an auto night shift ability. They both can easily survive high temperatures as well as survive extreme water conditions. And they both have a very strong sapphire display. Just however, the Apple Watch is the only one that is full titanium, as it's like one full titanium block, where the Galaxy Watch Ultra has a little bit piece of plastic right here on the side right here. Only the top and bottom is titanium. So it has like a hard plastic bumper, but the internal, it's just one solid block of like titanium from iFixit videos. Just something I wanted to highlight. Then real quick, although both these two smartwatches do have an impressive water resistant rating, as both are advertised to be able to be fully submerged in water up to 100 meters, which is really deep. But when it comes to like teardown videos, it seems like it's easier to break through the Samsung Galaxy Ultra watch versus the Apple Watch. And like teardown videos I watch all over online, like iFixit is a fine example, they show that it's much more harder to get in the Apple Watch, which means it has more gaskets. It's just more, it looks to be better secure for water purposes, unlike the Ultra. Kind of seems a bit too easy to go in. Even some people that tear down the watch said the exact same thing. It's concerning how easy it is to get in this watch.
It's extremely water resistant, but I'm not really seeing any adhesive on the actual watch. I'm just seeing this rubber gasket.
Now they both have the double tap gesture ability, which was first introduced on the Apple Watch. Samsung was able to integrate it on their smartwatch, and it does come in handy when it comes to picking up or hanging up calls without you having to actually physically tap on the screen. And they both do an excellent job when it comes to step tracking as well. But when it comes to overall battery life, I have noticed better numbers on the Apple Watch Ultra 2nd generation, because on the Galaxy Ultra, unfortunately, I'm able to get close to like 40 hours under a single charge. Just a little over 2 days, when it's advertised to be able to last almost identical to the Apple Watch Ultra. And that's with always on display enabled on both devices, because after all, what use is a smartwatch if it can't tell you the time regardless on the position your wrist is in? And don't just take my word for it, because I did do a video time lapse of this battery stress test that I did utilizing these on-screen tappers to constantly help keep the screen awake. So from 100% charge, by disconnecting the charging puck on both those two devices, making sure always on display is enabled, making sure they're both disconnected from the phone on airplane mode to eliminate any background app distractions, and disconnected from Wi-Fi, solely relying on their internal hardware. The Samsung Galaxy Ultra only lasted about 8 hours under a single charge, versus the Apple Watch Ultra was able to last up to 24 hours under a single charge, which correlates to my everyday results I've been seeing from the last 3 weeks of using both of these two Ultra smartwatches. And I hardly doubt there's a difference between display, because there's a high resolution display on the Apple Watch Ultra, but both are still OLED. And the arm animation, I hardly doubt does anything, because the Apple Watch is still using time. If that really was the case, I'm sure these numbers would have been much closer than 16 hours apart. If you'd like to see that video, I have a link in the description. And then when it comes to recharge time, from 0 to 100%, this one takes little over 2 hours. Meanwhile, the Apple Watch Ultra, from 0 to 80% takes me under an hour, but a full 100% charge from 0 to 100 will typically take me about an hour and 30 minutes. And then since we're talking about charging, unfortunately, a very amazing feature in the past about the Galaxy Watch was the capability to wirelessly charge on your device like this. Unfortunately, thanks to the hardware, safety, heart rate sensors and such, that is no longer compatible. But what you can do is just use the included USB-C charging puck and just plug it into your phone and charge it this way. I guess that's one way to bypass that. But the same can be said about the iPhone, as I could wirelessly charge it this way as well, technically, just like that. And they both have nightstand mode as well. But when it comes to unique features between these two, there's actually quite a bit. Starting off with the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch has a built-in compass which supports backtrack ability. If you don't know what backtrack is, let's say for example you were out and hiking and utilizing the multi-point GPS, this will mark every landmark that you manually mark, and when it's time for you to head back to camp, just hit backtrack, which will basically allow you to retrack your steps and just follow the GPS line and coordinates on the display. It will take you back safely. And I know what some of you guys might be saying. Doesn't the Samsung Galaxy Watch feature a backtrack ability? Yes, but you see, Apple does it differently because here's a dedicated app that basically just does that. You don't have to run anything else because on the Ultra, I need to have the workout app enabled. And after my outdoor runs, that's when I can actually backtrack. So it's using the heart rate sensor and using up more battery resources. Where with the Apple Watch, you don't need to have a workout enabled or any fitness tracking ability, especially if you're off the grid and you're trying to preserve as much battery as much as possible. Which is why I don't really truly call it a backtracking ability on the Ultra like it is on the Apple Watch. Another cool unique feature is Vitals, which Vitals utilizes your sleeping habits, your activity levels, your heart rate, and will monitor all this. So if you have like a hard time, a hard day in life, you've been drinking a lot, stressing out a lot, or your watch noticing some unhealthy health patterns, it will actually alert you ahead of time to be aware of that so you can actually take control and don't allow yourself to fall down. Then another cool thing is the digital crown, because the Apple Watch does have a moving part right here to easily scroll. And then the action button, this orange button, if you long hold on watchOS 11, you could personalize it right here off your wrist. But if you notice, there's a lot more actions you could do with that versus what the Galaxy is capable of, which I'll show you in a little bit. And you could even customize it because you do have access to the shortcut menu, which you could create any shortcut on your phone to like launch a certain app, open a door, and the possibility is honestly endless with that customized action button. Then the Apple Watch has a depth sensor, so as soon as I submerge this in water, it will automatically turn on the depth sensor app and will give me the feet reading right here in real time. In addition to that, if we take it out, it'll switch back to its normal watch face and will automatically put the watch into lock mode, water lock mode, I mean. Let's see if the Samsung can also do the exact same thing. Here we go. In water we go. It does not have automatic depth sensor, nor will it put the device in water lock mode. Yeah, no, it's not in water lock. And size-wise, as earlier I showed you, this is a 49 screen, this is a 47 millimeters display. And removing the latches is as simple as simply as just pushing a button on the back on the Apple Watch Ultra. And then this also has a little button back here, but these actually pop straight up. They don't slide. And this is how the mechanism actually looks like. But when it comes to comfort, both are equally as comfortable. I don't have any complaints, but I have noticed that this is slightly taller than the Apple Watch. So the Samsung is slightly taller, and to prove it, here are some calipers, and I set them to millimeters. Now let's see if my theory is true. This is my first time measuring this, by the way. And measuring these, we are looking at about almost like a 16 millimeter, 15.91, but I will round it up at 16 because I'm actually somewhat tapping into the glass right here. And then for the Apple Watch, it's low 14s, mid 14s it looks like, 14.3. So yeah, definitely is slightly thinner, but when it comes to like tallness, 49, and for the Samsung, a little bit less taller, 46. So small trade-off, but this I have noticed pops up a little bit taller on my wrist than it does with the Apple Watch Ultra. And they're overall generic with, let's see, 44 on the Apple Watch, and about 47. So taller and slightly wider. Definitely is a slightly larger footprint than the Apple Watch Ultra. Now, other cool things about the Galaxy Ultra, it does have the quick button. They call it the quick button, not the action button, which you could program it to do like a workout selection. But if we go into our system settings real quick, in the gesture and hold, the action button can be swapped for a stopwatch, flashlight, and wire lock, and none. That's basically it. There's no double tap ability where you can program it to do something else. It's very limited in the customization for the quick button that it has. But this can monitor your overall body fat percentage, something that the Apple Watch does not have in the health app of the Samsung Watch, in the body composition setting, and just follow the on-screen instructions and you can measure it right here. Unfortunately, it's not 100% accurate, as most body fat percentage devices typically are, like weight scales and such. But nonetheless, it's good information of numbers and data that you can use to easily make progress to achieve your goal. So if you're losing weight, it will definitely tell you there, even though it's not accurate, but it will allow you to, again, make progress to your end goal. Then the Samsung Ultra has sleep tracking support, of course, just like the Apple Watch, but this can actually track your sleep apnea as well. Even supports AEG tracking as well, the lab section, but here you could track your metabolic overall health rating. So when it comes to workouts, both do have the automatic workout detection, which works reliably from my experience. But when it comes to overall end data, I have noticed that the calorie count is slightly lower than what the Apple Watch is actually reading. And I'm not the only one seeing this too, because here's an elliptical workout I did of just 30 minutes as I was wearing both smartwatches at the same time. And my end results was very interesting. It was almost 30 calories apart from each other. The Apple Watch got a little bit over 320 calories of active calories burned during this workout, and the Samsung was showing me just under 300. And I'm not the only one showing these type of similar data as well, but one of my favorite creators who's also on YouTube, the Quantify Scientist, who's a postdoctoral scientist who specializes in biological data analysts, he also came to the conclusion and seen very similar results as well, as the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra was also slightly lower than what the Apple Watch was reading, comparing it against his heart strap Garmin heart rate monitoring sensor in both his indoor cycles and his outdoor activities. I'll have this video referenced in the description if you want to find out more. So when it comes to overall workout calorie tracking, the Apple Watch does seem to be more reliable. Now, about to warm up for a quick run to show you some GPS numbers and see who's the most accurate. So to start this off, let's go ahead and show you the quick overview on how to start a workout on both of these two watches. So on the Apple Watch, I have it saved, so it's also on my smart stack. I could literally tap on my workout right here, but of course I could program the action button as well. Apologies if it's kind of out of focus. I don't know what's going on with my camera. I think it's the heat, but it's that simple. It's just doing that. And we already connected to GPS too, which is why we don't have like a grayed out arrow right there. So in no time, it was already connected. Then with the Samsung, I have it set to the action button, where by pressing here, it automatically lets me select the workout. So we are going to do an outdoor run. So running, as an example, start the 3-second timer. And now we are also immediately connected to GPS. That's what that glow solid green icon is. So let's start this run. So before I show you the GPS results, the data that's basically shown on the front display is basically my current active calories, heart rate, average pace, and distance, as well as my ring. And that's it, because next to that it's your media control. And behind here is your outdoor walk or run setting. I accidentally selected a walk, but regardless, we should see GPS data. And on the Galaxy Watch, this is what the front page will show you: your pace, your distance, and it'll automatically pause. The Apple Watch does that too. Next page will be your average speed, average pace, and your heart zone. A little bit more information than the Apple Watch, because I do like the heart zone if you just like to quickly overview it. But again, you got your media control and your workout settings. Back from doing our amazing outdoor run, here are both exercises on their native devices. So since we're tracking GPS, yes, I noticed I did outdoor walk on accident, but the Apple Watch was smart enough to adapt and know that we were doing an outdoor run. I'm sure the Samsung Ultra would be able to do the exact same thing. But here's our GPS. We started at the same exact spot, same exact location, and they do feature like a mini map ability. And in my opinion, they did an excellent job connecting. Yeah, I did a couple of backtracking because I had to go grab my camera. Unfortunately, on the Ultra, it didn't show me doing that. That's quite interesting. But we did the same routes Both of these two watches already failed here because I did hop on the sidewalk. I wasn't walking this dirt trail right here, but it's funny how both of them picked it up that way. I did not cut through here because there's a gate right there preventing you from cutting through like that. But for some reason, both GPS tracked it that way. But again, I do prefer the small detail that the Apple Watch is giving us with these little dots because it also tells us our speed when we start increasing our rate. Meanwhile, the Samsung Ultra is just a steady green line, which is quite interesting. But we did cut through there. I try following the crosswalk as much as possible. So on the Ultra, it shows us doing a similar thing over here. Honestly, looking at both of these two side by side, they're having similar GPS experiences. In my opinion, when you zoom out, you see the overline of the course and stuff that we took. So it's really very similar. Both have an amazing GPS. But when we zoom in, again, I was taking a crosswalk route. I don't know why it's overlapping the crosswalk because over here does the exact same thing with the Apple Watch, which is quite interesting. GPS performance, again, both perform phenomenal, especially in a suburban environment. In a city, I could imagine it being a little bit more less accurate because skyscrapers and stuff like that. But in my opinion, they both perform extremely well. Then when it comes to their multi-workout support, you'll find there's a lot more support on the Apple Watch than there is on the Ultra because there's a lot of workouts, some that I don't even never notice existed because there's all these, right? But if you want to add some more, you can add a workout, and Apple just continues to add a bunch of random workouts. As you see, you got, let's see, what do we got here that's odd? Cross country, skiing, that's odd to me. Dance, well, dance is dance. Fencing, fishing, fitness gaming, even. Kickboxing, martial arts, mind and body, mixed cardio, multi-sport, perfect for if you're training for like a triathlon. You could create your own paddling, pickleball, Polaris, play, not sure what that means exactly. Rugby, even, snow sports, and Apple just continues to add more and more. And if you don't see anything on this list, you could create them too. Now, as for the Samsung Ultra, let's see. We got multi-sport support, walking, running coach, which the Apple Watch also has something like that as well. But if we go all the way to the very right and we tap add and add exercise, you have all these other ones to also choose from, archery, arm curls. You will find some odd ones too, but the library is nowhere near as big as the Apple Watch is. But some of these are kind of odd because it has deadlift, which the Apple Watch has something called strength training, which will include all of them. So just something interesting, but you do have horseback riding, hula hooping. Feel free to pause so you can see the exercise list if you're trying to just find a wearable that's just covers the exercise you personally use. Both of these two watches. But based off this entire list, the list was definitely much longer on the Apple Watch because it was a couple odd exercises I've never heard of. But again, you can also create your own, just like the Apple Watch allows you to. But it's best to select one of these because these were actually engineered and specified for that exercise from hours of resources. I'm sure that Bose had to develop these exercises and make them optimal as much as possible. Then when it comes to sleep tracking, Bose do sleep tracking. They both do it extremely well. Now when it comes to call quality, here I'll give you a real world example how they sound like on mic. In my personal opinion, they both sound excellent, but here you go. Starting off with the Galaxy Ultra.
So this is the call quality coming from the Apple Watch Ultra, and you're listening through it through the speakers of the Samsung Galaxy Ultra. In my opinion, again, both work extremely well. The clarity, the call quality, the loudness at max audio on the Galaxy Ultra, I think are fantastic. They're definitely great microphones on both these two devices. But let's go ahead and switch. Now at max audio on the Apple Watch Ultra, this is how the microphone quality sounds like on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Again, I think they're really great, but feel free to comment down below which one's your preferred favorite.
Then when it comes to sending messages, both are extremely easy to use to send a message. They both have their own dedicated messenger app, which you can use emojis, dictation, or a full keyboard. On the Apple Watch side, same story. Select the message app. You can use scribbles, change the language on the keyboard, emojis, or switch between the keyboard or dictation as well. And then when it comes to reactions, you can also long hold on certain text messages and use your emojis or whatever you like to select, because RCS is going to be compatible on the Apple Watch. So I could react to these previous conversations we had by just long holding and reacting to it just like that. And then when it comes to digital transactions, both have a wireless transaction ability, where on the Galaxy side you have Samsung Wallet, where you can select your credit card and tap by just tapping on the terminal. On the Apple side, you have Apple Pay, which is double tap on the power button will quickly bring up your cards, and you can select between them right here, or tickets even. In addition to that, the Apple Watch will soon have the ability to do tap to cash, where you could do a seamless transaction with another Apple user without having to have their contact information, just to send like $10 from purchasing like goods at like a fair or something like that. So the Apple Watch has a little bit more of an advantage right there when it comes to making those seamless transactions. And then when it comes to sirens, both of these, they're action buttons, or their quick button, the orange button basically. If you long hold, will actually start a siren. And for my results, the Ultra definitely gets louder than the Apple Watch, as the Ultra siren is able to go all the way up to 101 decibels. Meanwhile, the Apple Watch was capped at 96 decibels. So the Samsung Galaxy Ultra definitely is louder when it comes to its sirens. Now, when it comes to their cons, starting off with the Apple Watch, this is the only color that it comes with. This naked titanium body. That's it. It's also the most expensive when it comes to compared against the Ultra, but that's basically it, because unlike the Galaxy Ultra, these bands can be swappable all the way down to the first generation Apple Watch. So if you have existing bands, you could swap them to the Ultra just fine. Meanwhile, yes, there's 3 color choices to choose from the Galaxy Ultra, which is awesome, but the band itself is non-swappable from older model Galaxy smartwatch models, as an example. So if you have some bands from your previous Galaxy Watch, unfortunately, you're going to have to start all over. And there's no digital, like actual physical rotating knob like the Apple Watch does with this satisfying digital crown. And then, although these two do have ECG support, the Samsung is the only one that actually does do stress tracking as well. Versus the Apple Watch, you need to download a third-party app to monitor your stress levels. But these two have fall detection. Just the Apple Watch is the only one that actually has crash detection. That alone was this information I gave you. It's clear that both of these two smartwatches are extremely advanced, and I do believe they deserve the name of Ultra if they're trying to target the outdoor enthusiasts for hiking, scuba diving, or other extreme sports, because both of these are durable for my day-to-day experience. But if you would ask me which one I'll pick between these two, I'm sticking with the Apple Watch Ultra, due to the fact that I am a men's physique competitor, and when it comes to calorie tracking, calories is the #1 priority, especially if you're in a calorie deficit. So even though it could be off by 30 calories, in the long run, that's going to add up to a lot. So hopefully over time, Samsung can improve the algorithm for the calorie tracking when it comes to your workouts to make it more accurate or on point to the Apple Watch. But as the time of making this video, upon its release, it's not really that accurate compared to the Apple Watch. And also the battery life on the Apple Watch Ultra 2nd generation is better than the Galaxy Ultra. But this could also be fixed over time, because if I recall, the 2nd generation Apple Watch Ultra didn't really have the best battery life either. It was until future firmware updates Apple was able to improve it. So we may see the same things. So until Samsung would change that, I'm going to go ahead and use this as my daily driver. But if Android was all I got, this is a nice replacement for the Apple Watch Ultra. So there you guys have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll be sure to include links to where you get a discount on this Samsung Galaxy Ultra, as well as including some links to any deals going on with for the Apple Watch Ultra in the comment section down below. My name was Eddie, and thank you so much for watching.